Round up that Pisstown posse. This is District Sentinel Radio, the newscast of record for the left. I'm Sam Sachs.
I'm Sam Knight.
We're broadcasting out of Sentinel Fort in Washington, D.C. Check out the website, districtsentinel.com.
We all know on Monday, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change came out with a pretty depressing report.
Yeah.
We didn't expect, I guess, a climate disaster to be headed our way the very same week.
No, a super hurricane emerged in like half a week and is now slamming in to the Florida Panhandle. Pray for Florida right now, folks. Seeing some early video from Mexico Beach, Florida. It looks completely underwater and completely destroyed. Pretty bad news there. I remember I have a lot of family in Florida, not on the Panhandle, but I did go to Florida State University, which is in Tallahassee. Not quite in the path of the hurricane, but is going to get hit pretty hard still. I remember when I went to school wanting hurricanes to hit. Not like this, though. This is pretty bad. It's one of the strongest storms to ever make landfall.
150 mile per hour winds at the moment.
Yeah.
I think they were clocked at.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough by comparison. What was a storm that just hit the Carolinas? It was
I mean, I think that was like 100 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was more of a rain event, but
speaking of underwater, how about that stock market, folks?
Yeah, this would be the big story of the day if Florida wasn't getting hammered. When we were walking into the studio, it was down about 800. What's the latest here?
831 points.
830 points.
And markets are closing in a few minutes, but it's looking like higher interest rates, higher U.S. Treasury yields is what the financial press is saying about this.
But who the fuck knows, really?
Who knows? But if that is the case, higher interest rates could see tougher conditions for for corporate debt and all the bad corporate debt we've been talking about that financial regulators have been talking about. So who knows? Maybe this is just a one-off day. We tend to talk about the stock market when it's going into a sell-off. We usually don't talk about it on days that's going well, but who knows? Maybe this is the start of a...
We're on Crash Watch here.
We are.
Crash Watch.
It is October. I will note it's October.
That's when shit hits the fan.
That's when shit has historically hit the fan. So...
Sell!
Buy gold. Seeds. Seriously, though, District Sentinel is now selling survival buckets. You can buy freeze-dried chicken tendies.
Yeah, be prepared for the hellscape that comes under President Bloomberg. Got Michael Bloomberg just pointing out that he's now a registered Democrat. He's running, folks, and it's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad, or it's going to be good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Democrat Jeb. Except without being able to sort of elicit sympathy. No one will feel sorry for the guy.
Well,
he'll make Jeb look like a guy with the common touch.
Yeah, I feel like even Fox News turned on Jeb Bush as he launched his campaign, but MSNBC will not turn on Michael Bloomberg with the roster of liberals over there, so especially Stephanie Ruhle, who I catch her show on a daily basis because we have MSNBC still on in the newsroom. They took away Bloomberg from us. But she says the center will rise. The center will rise at least 12 times on her show. She was promoting Bloomberg today on her show. I have a feeling he's going to get a lot of favorable coverage on the leading liberal news network.
He will, but Jeb got a lot of favorable coverage from Fox News.
I don't know about that. I felt like he was getting owned on Fox News once it became pretty clear.
Well, yeah, but once it became pretty clear,
yeah,
at least on the maybe not Fox News, but on the mainstream media, I seem to remember the commentators during one of the Republican debates talking about how well Jeb was doing. And then polls would come out like, who do you think is doing well? And Jeb would be at the bottom of the list. But all the commentators were talking about how great he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing might happen for Bloomberg, but eventually I think he will just get owned by reality.
Let's hope.
I feel like he won't even launch a campaign because he's going to do what he always does, which is see if he can launch a campaign and then commission polls, and then all the polling will show everyone hates Michael Bloomberg.
I don't know. Has he gotten to this point, though, where he's re-registered as a Democrat?
But this is step one. Like, I don't know. I mean,
such a huge step he took here. I mean,
we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Going to read some haikus a little bit later in the show. But first, it's Wednesday, October 10th, 2018. Here's the news.
Another big ticket corporate merger is being approved by the Trump administration. Today, the Justice Department said it will okay the acquisition of health insurer Aetna by CVS, the major retail pharmacy chain that I definitely didn't shoplift from all the time when I was a kid. Attached to the approval are some conditions. The DOJ Antitrust Division said Aetna must first sell its Medicare Part D prescription drug plans, or the part of its business where they sell Medicare Part D prescription drug plans to individuals. But after that, the merger will be approved. CVS is the largest retail pharmacy in the largest retail pharmacy company in the U.S. Aetna is the country's third largest health insurance firm, and the merged company is estimated to be worth $69 billion, which, no, not nice.
Yeah, I almost said it, then I realized the context. What's up with CVS? I remember CVS came out of nowhere. When I was a kid, it was Walgreens. Walgreens was the dominant drugstore.
When I was a kid, it was People's Drug in the D.C. area. And then one day it was just like, well, CVS has bought all the
it's like an invasive species. It just like popped up and took over the entire drugstore market.
It really did. Really did. In releasing its conditional approval, the Justice Department said an Aetna-CVS merger would lead to trickle-down benefits. The new company, DOJ said, quote, has the potential to generate benefits by improving the quality and lowering the costs of the healthcare services that American consumers can obtain.
Yeah, that's definitely going to happen, 100%.
That claim is being disputed, thankfully. Public Citizen said the new company will have a negative impact on our already dysfunctional healthcare market. Quote, it's likely to generate even more irrationality with consumers increasingly forced into corporate Goliath-managed parallel healthcare universes, none of which offer satisfactory options or transparency, end of quote. I think that sums my feelings about the situation up way more than the DOJ. The CVS-Aetna deal is the third major merger approved this year by the Trump administration. DOJ antitrust officials have also signed off on a Disney-Fox merger and Bayer's acquisition of Monsanto. Happy little firm you all might know called Monsanto.
I hear they've changed their name. The Senate Homeland Security Committee convened their annual threats hearing. It featured testimony from Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, as well as from FBI Director Christopher Wray. Since the FBI director was in attendance, Senator Kamala Harris figured it'd be a good time to get some answers about that sham background investigation into Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Wray admitted that the Bureau did receive direction from the White House, and unlike what senators like Susan Collins and Jeff Flake said about the probe, Wray admitted that it wasn't thorough. Here's the back and forth. It's a bit long between Senator Kamala Harris and the FBI director.
So in this situation, was your direction limited in scope, or were you given full direct discretion to investigate whatever your agency thought was appropriate to figure out what happened?
I think I would say that our investigation here, our supplemental update to the previous background investigation was limited in scope, and that is consistent with the standard process for such investigations going back quite a long ways.
Do you know who determined that the FBI would not interview Judge Kavanaugh or Dr. Ford or the list of 40-plus witnesses?
Again, I would say what I said at the beginning, which is, as is standard, the investigation was very specific in scope, limited in scope, and that is the usual process, and that my folks have assured me that the usual process was followed.
Okay. And did the FBI look into allegations as to whether Judge Kavanaugh lied to Congress during his testimony?
That's not something I could discuss here.
I'll take that as a no on that last question. Ray, trying to cover the Bureau and the administration's ass here a little bit by saying, this is normally a limited investigation. So this is the ordinary process. Of course, how often are pending Supreme Court nominees accused of sexual assault right before? I mean, this has, or sexual harassment assault. This has happened, but there's not exactly like a blueprint for how to go back and properly investigate these claims when they arise.
I think as well that
there should be by now.
The Anita Hill investigation is widely regarded as a failure, and that if that is the blueprint, I'm certainly no scholar on the issue. There are people I'm sure who have written a lot about that, but not something that you should follow. Also, I should note the Senate Judiciary Committee met today. I guess it was the first meeting of the committee.
What was the atmosphere like?
Well, it was pretty tense, and Mike Lee tried to offer this olive branch, and Cory Booker sort of offered it back. But then Cory Booker also noted that it was kind of fucked up how the FBI never looked into Deborah Ramirez's claims, and people were telling Booker, and obviously he was overseeing the investigation, that eyewitnesses possibly could have corroborated her story had the FBI interviewed them, but they didn't bother interviewing them.
No, and Ray admitted that there is likely a paper trail of communications between the White House and the FBI on these limits on who could be interviewed, who couldn't be interviewed. Senator Harris asked if the Bureau could turn over any relevant communications. Ray said that he'll get back to her on that. Wouldn't be surprised if there is a smoking gun here of Donald McGahn, the White House counsel, basically telling the FBI, lay off Brett Kavanaugh, don't interview Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, I wonder if that would do anything if that was revealed. I mean, he's already seated, he's already on the bench, and I'm not sure there's many Democrats who really have the fight in them to try and impeach him at this point. But
maybe there can be a bipartisan compromise whereby both Kavanaugh and James Clapper are prosecuted for lying to Congress.
Yes.
We are totally behind that.
Yes, 100%. Anyways, good line of questioning here for the hearing. This threats hearing, which is normally focused on shit like hackers and foreign adversaries and EMPs, really electromagnetic pulses, get a lot of attention during these hearings. Good to remember, though, that one of the most serious threats come from within the FBI itself. Speaking of which, Senator Rand Paul, who is dumb 90% of the time, but is kind of on point 10% of the time. Let's cut it to 2% and 98% time dumb. Anyways, Rand Paul almost got the FBI director to lie to Congress. Here is the Kentucky senator pressing Ray about whether or not the FBI uses foreign surveillance databases, information that crucially isn't collected using warrants. This is usually information collected overseas on targets overseas, but happens to scoop up a lot of domestic information as well. Anyways, Rand Paul asked the director if they use these foreign intelligence databases while prosecuting domestic crimes, something we know the FBI does do to a certain extent. Here's that exchange.
Director Ray, does the FBI access the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Database for information on domestic crime?
The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Database? I mean, we have a variety of databases. We do not
But you're telling me that a guy that is alleged to sell drugs and talks to people in Mexico whose conversations might be caught up in an international database, you're not accessing those to go after drug charges?
Senator, I'd be happy to try to arrange a more detailed briefing that could get
No, but that's
into
either a yes or a
weeds.
no. Either you do it or you don't do it. In the past, my understanding is the FBI has said that they do this, that they do access, and that's been a big debate over what the legislation should say on what you should do. And in the recent FISA reform, we actually said you can only do it or that it requires a warrant if you have an open and active investigation. The point from those of us who believe we need more privacy control is that we're concerned that the FBI, thousands of agents across the country, could be looking at conversations about domestic crime or about anything, perhaps, without a warrant. And that's the debate we've been having for years in this country, and this is a public policy debate, not one over secrets. So your testimony is that the FBI does not access foreign databases to investigate in any way domestic crime.
Senator, I would want to be more careful in my answer to you, so let me propose to get back to you with something in writing on that.
I take that as a yes. I just don't want to say it in public. Don't want to pull a Jim Clapper here either and lie, although not like anything would happen if he did. Rand Paul, good line of questioning, although I cut the clip there. He pushes that line of questioning eventually to get to Peter Strzok and Lisa Page or whatever, the FBI agents. So he ended up losing the plot.
Yeah,
at the end of it.
I saw that he he had tweeted something about how he questioned Wray about surveillance of the president, surveillance on the president. And this came to my attention because I follow that account that documents whatever the Trump kids do on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump Jr. faved the tweet of Rand Paul being like, I was pressing about the investigation of the president, which, like,
Rand Paul has been doing a lot of butt kissing for Donald Trump lately.
That's what bugs me about this thing is, well, he's making salient points about the issue, but he's doing it very cynically.
Yeah.
To try to say that the investigation of Trump, whatever investigation it is illegitimate.
Yeah. Almost this close, Rand. I've watched a lot of these threats hearings over the last few years. A lot of the same concerns come up. Gotta say, though, there was a new threat I haven't heard in this hearing before, brought up on Wednesday. Here's Senator Maggie Hassan talking about deep fakes. Deep fakes, clips that can be created with cutting-edge video and audio software that makes it look like people are saying or doing things that they aren't doing. It can be used to manipulate the words of, Sam or myself, or even the words of heads of state. And Senator Hassan is concerned.
The use of deepfakes for national security purposes would be a nightmare. Imagine deepfakes being used to make it look like a Secretary of Defense would no longer back an ally or would threaten imminent action against a rival. This false rhetoric could trigger mass protests or instability in regions, force impulsive reactions from countries who fall for the ruse, and cause massive shifts in stock markets across the world. So, Director, can you please share with us how the FBI is seeking to adapt to the emergency of low-cost deep fakes and what steps you're taking to prevent deep fakes from being used to undermine U.S. national security?
Well, Senator, I think you're exactly right that it's a topic of great concern. We have a number of our science and technology folks burrowing in on this issue. There's probably more that could be discussed in a different setting than, say, this one.
That's a bit of a strange answer to me, considering that this is essentially technology being produced by software companies like Adobe to better assist filmmakers in editing purposes. So not sure what secret initiatives the FBI is looking into here and what sort of information they'd want to hold back and wait for a closed session to reveal. But yeah, that's not something that I've ever heard come up before in a threats hearing.
Got to watch out for those deep fakes.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right, time to take a quick poetry break. All new subscribers on the Patreon get their own haiku read on the air. Let's read a few right now. This first one goes out to Fernery. Once cared for a plant, it lived for more than 3 weeks. Not that bad, really.
Thank you, Fernery. This is for Anthony. Here's one way to fail. Politics involve only helping Democrats.
Thank you, Anthony. This one goes out to Justin. Had a pet fish, too. Lasted longer than 3 weeks, but not by a lot.
Thank you, Justin. This is for David. Hardwood floors better. Carpet is harder to clean. And much worse for dust.
Good advice. Thank you, David. This one is for Zach. Please don't shame others. With one minor exception, people who eat loud.
Thank you, Zach. Finally, this is for Kyle. A modest idea. Steal golf clubs from rich people. That is just step one.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks to all the new subscribers on Patreon. You know my last haiku about people who eat loud. That was a sub haiku to intern Nate.
Well, it was until you just said that.
I removed the sub. Again, subscribe, patreon.com/District Sentinel. We are almost through our backlog of haikus. There's only about eight or so that we're still behind on. So if you haven't heard your haiku yet,
you're about to.
You're definitely about to fucking hear your haiku. All right, let's move on with the show.
It's never been a better time to be an American war profiteer. Well, actually it has, but we'll get to that in a second. Weapons manufacturers in the U.S. are making record sales abroad. That's according to a part of the Pentagon overseeing foreign weapons deals. The Defense Security Cooperation Agency heralded the news in a press release today entitled, quote, U.S. arms sales overseas skyrocketed 33% in 2018. Very subtle there. Total weapons sales to allies increased to $55.6 billion in fiscal year 2018. That was the meat of the press release. The DCSA bragged how this arms dealing is a deliberate part of the Trump administration strategy. Quote, the focus of the administration on trying to pump up U.S. arms sales in order to boost domestic manufacturing jobs has led to officials across the Pentagon and State Department to proclaim pushing American kit is a bigger part of their international engagements. End of quote. Amazing. According to The Hill, total arms sales in fiscal year 2017 amounted to $42 billion. It's about, $13.6 billion less than 2018. FY 2016, meanwhile, saw $33.6 billion in foreign arms deals. So annual weapons sales have increased by more than $20 billion in the last 2 fiscal years. Trump is making America great again. The DSCA noted, however, that the all-time record for one-year arms sales happened during the Obama administration. In 2012, there were $69.1 billion in arms sales, driven by a $29 billion purchase of 84 F-15 fighter jets by, you guessed it, Saudi Arabia.
Ooh.
You were about to say Israel, maybe, but it was Saudi Arabia. Many of those planes are probably being used right now to commit unspeakable atrocities in Yemen. So
yeah, those arms sales aren't aging very well.
Obama. Not aging. Oh, jeez. In related news, as we reported on our latest zine, so if you've already read our zine, you can, I guess, skip forward through this. But if you haven't read the zine, what the hell are you doing? Read the zine. Anyway, in the latest zine, an arm of the Commerce Department last month urged American companies to sell arms to Thailand, a country that has been led by a military dictatorship since 2014. In an email, the U.S. Commercial Service highlighted, quote, the regional arms race in Southeast Asia. So America has always been the world's biggest arms dealer. But again, the Trump administration here is truly saying the quiet part loud. Yet again.
Finally, today, some drama shaping up at the Supreme Court. We've reported on the looming deposition of Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. This is related to his department's decision to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. A bunch of states are suing the government over it. They claim that this is discriminatory. And as part of the discovery, they're trying to determine what motivated the addition of the question. They suspect racism, trying to discourage immigrants from responding. Now, what we've learned is that it looks like Wilbur Ross lied to Congress about why the question was added. He said it was at the behest of the Justice Department, but internal memos disprove that. So the court in this case ordered Ross to sit for a deposition, a rare thing for a department secretary. And at each step of the legal process, the Justice Department has lost in its effort to shield Ross, as well as Assistant Attorney General John Gore, from facing a deposition. Each step of the way they've lost until last night, when the Supreme Court intervened. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg issued the stay on the deposition orders until Thursday evening so that states suing the government can present their case to the Supreme Court, which will then likely give the final say on whether Ross and Gore can be deposed. Before Ginsburg's stay, Gore was supposed to face deposition this morning. Ross was set to face it tomorrow on Thursday. So this is a save from RBG. Keep an eye on Brett Kavanaugh here, too. If this goes to the full... Yeah, he's still mad. This is Brett Kavanaugh, still very angry right now. If this goes to the full court, he could cast a deciding vote to save a key Trump official from any legal accountability. This would all happen like less than a week after Susan Collins gaslighted the whole country about the new justice, about Brett Kavanaugh, saying he would bring less partisanship to the court. Boy, that would really be something. All right.
Bit of a self-owned by Kavanaugh getting angry at Congress and ensuring that every single article about him and every time he is in the news will feature that photo of him fucking red-faced screaming at Amy Klobuchar.
Either him fucking angry as hell or him sobbing. Those are all the AP photos now of Brett Kavanaugh. All right, end of the show. I see the rant line is blinking. Let's see what people have to say.
Hey guys, so this recent report on global warming got me thinking. There's an invention that I'd like to patent. It's kind of like a vacuum that sucks carbon out of the atmosphere and then concentrates it and then injects it directly into the bloodstream of coal and oil executives. I'll probably need some seed funding for that, so I guess let me know what you guys think, and have a good one.
That sounds like an excellent idea right there. Good carbon reduction plan. Yeah, we just got to find that seed funding. I'd like to help somehow get on the bottom floor here.
Yeah,
this thing could really take off.
I was gonna say, take all my money, please. Let me empty my savings account. 3453.
What's going on in the chat room?
The chat room.
The old chat room.
David talking about Bloomberg, saying, so Dems are embracing an independent. What happened to he's not even a Democrat? Also saying, make sure to read the New York Times if you want to see some intense contortionist efforts to make this merger a good thing. Joe saying, trickle down anything always works. Always. Some talk about what used to be the local drugstore chains before they were ravaged by CVS. Long's had that ice cream, that ice cream stand inside, RIP. That's what Star Stuff says.
You can still find a Rite Aid every now and then.
Gregory says CVS doesn't sell cigarettes. They're the Bloomberg of convenience stores. Okay, I guess that's enough CVS talk for now. David also talking about congressional hearings. They're palpable about Chris Wray. Their palpable discomfort is the only good thing about watching Congress proceedings. Gregory says, got to get the FBI counsel to read over his lie first. Bill says, Pisstown is stored in the balls. David says, deep fakes is the new big naturals.
Deep fakes. Deep fakes. All right.
That's about it.
We'll wrap it up
today.
there. Call the rant line 202-684-6108. Thanks to our sponsors, the Congressional Dish podcast hosted by Jen Briney. Find it at congressionaldish.com. Another sponsor, levelnews.org. The newscast is back tomorrow. We're here in D.C., so you don't have to be.